So, Joseph Antoine Bell, you were one of the legends of Cameroonian football. What I'd like to ask you is about record keeping to start with. Do you think that the records of matches from, say, from when Oryx won the African Cup of Champions clubs is good enough so that we know what happened in these matches when we look back on it?
Uh, like in so many other places in Africa, the history hasn't been told correctly because it was not written, and it was just if you could be lucky enough to meet someone who was there, and then he can tell it. So
Mhm.
this is the way the history came to people today. So if you even get back to search, you are not sure you're going to find everything that happened. So you journalists and historian, you better hurry up before all those
Mhm.
people who will no longer be of this world.
That's actually what I'm trying to do. We have a project that the aim of it is like in 1972, the record keeping for once in relation to Godfrey Chitalu was very good. So you know exactly how many goals he scored, who he scored them against, what competition, but it's only
Yeah.
1972. Our project aims to use statistics students and football journalism students to research 6 months of the player's career. And they get this information: who they played, when they played, what the score was, what the competition was. So you get to know exactly how many goals the player scored. And you share that by having another sort of 20 students. Let's say you have a 10-year career, you have another 20 students, each of them takes 6 months of the career, and then they centralize this information, and they get access to the raw data of all the other students for their dissertations. Does that sound like a good idea to you?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Writing history will always be a good idea because people need to know where they come from, what happened before, and so that they can know if they are improving, if they are doing the same, or and then what we wish is improving. So it means that knowing what happened before will always be very important.
Which Cameroonian players do you feel should be prioritized in a study like this?
I think the study will show you who you have to prioritize because when you see press news, uh, match sheets, you will know after 2, 3, 4, 5 games who their names are always been cited
Mm.
as the important people of the game.
That's now. Back in 1964 and onwards, you didn't have this information. You didn't even have team sheets in a number of the matches. You didn't know who was appearing, who was substitute. All this type of information you didn't know. So you now have to go back and look at the match reports and gather, i.e., mainly media match reports, and gather what information you can from this. So, what I'm talking about are players from the past, the ones
Yeah.
where we don't have this information, we don't have the team sheets, we don't have access to this type of information. Who would you, if you were in our position of trying to organize this research, who would you recommend that we
You,
look at?
I think what you should do is try to find everywhere the players of those days, because, and they are old today, they are old people today, trying to get, you will always have a name somewhere, and then go to these people and see what they can remember, like, because you will trust their memory, but then remember, they didn't see everything, they couldn't be aware of everything, so at least you will have the beginning of the story. So going to old people is the way to do it. But then you should know from what period you get the traceability of what happened. Because like you said, maybe for some matches, for some period, you don't even have the match sheet. And then the papers were always papers, which means they can disappear and you will no longer see anything. So you need to have someone who will tell the story like our grandparents were doing, and you will mention that the story is from someone who were there, but at least there will be something from the period, at least, because if you don't do that, then the period will vanish and there will be no sign of everything. And then what you are doing is the same job archaeologists do. Because there was nobody, they would go and dig, try to find something, and from our knowledge today, they will try to understand what happened.
In the case of Godfrey Chitalu, something unusual happened, and that is the original analysis of his record only focused on the Zambian season, which at that time was within the calendar year. So it said 107 goals, and you have the record of each and every one of these goals, where they were, where they were scored, what competition. What is very, very interesting is there are 9 goals which didn't count. And that's fine within the season because it wasn't in the Zambian season, but it was in 1972. And it just so happened that it was in the African Cup of Champions Clubs, the most important competition in Africa, or club competition in African football at that time. Now, then something really sad happened, and that is the official records have all gone missing. There was an accident in Cairo at CAF offices in 1983, and a lot of records went once and for all. It was before digitalization and computerization of records. So now you don't have access to the official records, i.e., CAF's officials, match reports, and the rest of it. What you do have are Zambian archive newspaper footage or newspaper coverage, which says Godfrey Chitalu scored twice in Maseru in the National Stadium against Magenta, and he scored 7 times in the 9-0 win. Strangely, CAF acknowledges the 9-0 win, but it doesn't say who scored the goals. What do you think should be done about this?
I think it's something that needs Zambian Football Association to get completely involved in backing your research, because the official record is always from the Football Association. The official recognition is from the Football Association. So CAF cannot do anything if it's not the Zambian Football Association, which means your first job, not first, the first one was to search. And now the second one is to get the Zambian Football Association involved into the recognition.
They are.
The Zambian Football Association, so if they are, now they have to take the lead and go to CAF and say, this is what happened, this is the records we had, And maybe CAF then will say, okay, where do you say you play? So CAF will maybe appoint someone to retrace every single match he played according to Zambian football, because you never played against yourself, you play against others. So you will say, we beat Congo, then they will go to Congo trying to find someone from this period who will confirm that this game took place and that the score was the one you are saying. At least they will have something that shows that what you are saying really happened.
Well, we've actually got that. The match took place. The team that was from Lesotho, Magenta. I've been to Lesotho. I've spoken to the Football Association, and I've even traced the goalkeeper who let in the 9 goals that Chitalu scored in the whole tie. He says Chitalu was the exceptional forward that he ever faced, and that there's no doubt that he scored all these goals. Others in Lesotho were also at the match, so it's very clearly something that happened and acknowledged both in Lesotho and in Zambia. So it's now got to the stage where we need to move on and get him that recognition, because the point of it is that those 9 goals mean not only does he have the world record for goals, most goals in a season, but also the calendar year. How important is it that this example of African record keeping is acknowledged within Africa and becomes somewhat of a standard for establishing African records?
Well, I think it's important, but it won't be more important to others than those who are concerned. Africans, Zambian. So if it's important to Zambian, then they are going to fight to get it recognized by CAF. And once it's recognized by CAF, it will be recognized by the whole Africa. And now the world could take it and say something happened in Africa. But what you should know is that those records from the past will always stay within those who will feel concerned. Just like for 1958 World Cup, you have Just Fontaine, who scored, what was it, 19 or 13 goals?
13.
13 goals. Then when you are in 62, they will be talking about it. 66, they will be talking about it. 70, they're still talking about it. But then they turn on the young man who now won his 3rd World Cup. Then you will have things like this. And then with time, as time goes, people will see it as, okay, it's a record from the past, but nobody can no longer score 9 goals in a World Cup. And once it's established that the record will never be broken, they will start forgetting about it. And it loses its importance. And this is what is, how do you call it? It's the opposition of what is happening. You find it, you got it, but if it stays too long, then they forget about it because it won't be broken.
What would you call a league where the champions win it by 9 points, i.e. 3 wins from second place, and the second place team is 30 points ahead of third place and 70 goals ahead?
Give me 1 minute, Satish. Yeah.
So, to state that question again, what would you call a league where the top place team, the champions, win the league by 9 points, 3 wins from second place, and the second place team are 30 30 points ahead of third place, so 10 wins better than third place, and also 70 goals ahead on goal difference from third place.
No, it means that there is something wrong. Because if the first place is 9 points clear and the second one 13, I think.
No, 30, 30.
Is 30.
Yeah, 30, 30.
30
10
points.
ahead, 10 wins ahead of third place.
No.
Or the equivalent of that.
It's a weak league. It's a very weak league. You can, because if the first can beat all the others and the second two can beat all the others and the third is coming from so far 10 wins better than the third place, it means that it's a very, very, very incoherent league where you can ask yourself how teams got to that league, because this must be a league where people are franchised and not coming, as we know, from second division to first. If you do that and people are coming every year, you will always have a type of, at least you will have 2 or 3 teams that are stronger than the others, but not that way.
What league do you think that is?
I don't know. It's Zambian league.
No, that is actually La Liga 2011 to 2012 season, the year that Messi broke the record of Gerd Muller of 85 goals.
2011.
Yeah, 2011 and 2012 season. In
2011 and 2012 season, Messi had 9 points clear from Madrid. And
no, Madrid were 9 points clear of Barcelona, and Barcelona were 30 points clear of Valencia.
No, that is too much. But then, as you can see, if it comes to personal records, then there is also another way of reading it. Because if the personal record is from a player, which means any player could do. If nobody else does that, it means that this player is a special player because he's doing something nobody else can do. Just like when I say they are weak because the 2 first clubs are too strong and the others can't do the same, which means those clubs are special as compared to others. Just as is this player, and we are talking about Messi, who will break a record and nobody else does the same, because you can have a European record, but then somebody else from your own country will be second, which means he's benefited from the same condition and doing the same thing. But if you have 46 goals in a league, and then in that league, nobody approaches your record, and then your record is a European record, they have to respect it because you did something that, if they say is good condition, how come the condition were only good for you? So it means that it's, let's say, a type of accident of history where someone can be too good for the rest. Just like you were talking about Chitalu, if he scored 109 goals and the second one is 100 goals, then we will say it was easy to score goals because so many players did this. But if he was only the one to do it, it means that he had some skill to scoring goals.
In Chitalu's case, he had more than double the total of the next best player in the Zambian league. That's how good his season was. He scored 116 goals in the calendar year 1972. How important do you think it is for African football that this is acknowledged?
I did not get you.
So, how
Yeah,
important do you think
yeah.
it is for African football that Chitalu's records are properly acknowledged within football?
I've already said that it's important to know that something happened. But remember, since it won't happen again, is something people are going to blink at. Because
Mhm.
if it was that he scored 39 goals, then those who are scoring 28 or 30 would say, oh, I will try to do that. But if it's 100 goals and more, who do you want to think
Mhm.
about scoring 100 goals in a season? Only if you have 50 clubs.
Now, going to back to record keeping, it's easy in terms of strikers because you have something easy to measure, i.e., the number of goals they score. With goalkeepers back in the day, it's much, much more difficult because nobody tells you how many saves they made. How do
Yeah.
you think that record keeping should be done in terms of goalkeepers and defenders? Because you don't measure the number of tackles, you don't measure the number of interceptions, and things like that.
You won't have it because there was none of that. So the only way to assess goalkeeper of the past is what people saw, the feeling of people.
Mhm.
Because when you are good, you can be good in a game, then people will forget it. You can be good on a season, they'll think about it a little. But if you are good on 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons, it will be known and you will be renowned as being a good goalkeeper. So if you play the game like I told you like that, you play a game in Ghana, they say, oh, this goalkeeper, he was good today. Then when you play the return game and you are still good, they won't forget you. And when 5 years later, they can hear you are captaining Marseille, Olympique de Marseille, they won't forget you. It's not because of one game, but that game made them be aware of you. And then
Mhm.
because you kept doing it, they will still remember you. So the only way when you are no record or no way of recording things is what people think. And what people think is about a long period. Being good is something that needs to be regular, on a regular basis. What are you doing on a regular basis? So they know each time a team plays against you, they will think, oh, remember, they have a good goalkeeper. This is the only way you talk about goalkeepers or even defenders, because at the time there were no statistics and nobody could say there was 2, 3, or 4 saves. And even today, when you say there is 4 saves, the saves are not the same. There are saves you, Satish, can do, and
Mhm.
so the impression people get from the game is the big teams will let go only 1 or 2 opportunity to their opponents. And viens à l'hôtel Lundé. Oui, oui, je suis à l'appartement qui est derrière MRS. So, the only way you will know a keeper, a defender was a good defender is when the opponents will say, oh, be aware they have a good libero, like they were saying. They have a good fullback. They have this and that.
You
Okay, Satish.
Okay. I was going to let's. The last question I'm going to ask for on this particular one. You actually played in Europe. Some of your predecessors did not get the chance to play. How big an opportunity was that, and how much did that help to cement your legacy?
Uh, I think things do not happen on random. So you can't succeed just because you were lucky. Remember, the luck will always got onto something special. So if anybody can take the opportunity he is given, remember that before him or ahead of him, others that did not catch the opportunity were not remembered of. So nobody will talk about it. People played games before Chitalu.
Definitely.
Because they did not score, nobody remember. Chitalu scored a high number of goals, which lead to what is happening today. That is, because he did that, you are trying to do something. At least you are talking about him, even if CAF does not recognize it, it be something people have heard of. So if I play professional, it can't be just the luck. It's not possible because I know what I faced, and I can then deduce that other people faced the same thing but didn't succeed. So it can't just be, I cannot be the first black man to go in France. I cannot be the first black keeper to be in France, which means if I played because there was something that others did not have. And after me, you will have some of them playing who are not as good as me. Because now the way is paved, the way is open, then you can do it. Then by the time I was playing, you had to be the best by far. Because on top of everything, you had a number of strangers, foreigners in the league who was limited at 2. So you don't just have to be the best goalkeeper, but you must be almost the best player because you must be someone who is bringing good results, much more than maybe a center forward before you will have the opportunity to play. Okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, Satish.